All right, everybody. How's it going? We're ready. The video here. All right. There we go. Ben, wave hi to the camera. Oh.
Woo! Okay.
Not a wave at all, but sure. We'll dig. All right, YouTube live stream chat room. Where are you at?
Isn't it hot in here?
It's a little warm, huh?
A little warm, huh?
Yeah. All right, let's see if you can hear us, guys. This really is helpful when we do this, by the way. So, live stream chat room. Can you hear us? Can you hear this song that Ben Joravsky's about to sing, our song of the day?
Each morning I wake up, hey, ho, before I put on my makeup, boop, boop, I say a little prayer for you.
You guys hear that? Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Where are you at? Pat Rod, Brianna, Kyle, Steven. One of you, please. For the love of God.
For the love of God.
All right, it is, by the way, Wednesday, November 20th. And your Ben Joravsky show for Wednesday, November 20th is moments away. But before we get into that, we need to thank the following unions for sponsoring this program. First, it's the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, not Aerosmith, Local 126 in District 8. Okay, there we go. Steven says, yes, sadly, I hear you. I love the opening bit. It's great.
Sadly.
Good time.
It gets cut for the podcast, though.
Coming loud and clear. I was about to say loud and clear, Steven. And he said loud and clear, buddy. Steven, you and me, man, we're on the same page here. All right, the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 and District 8 sponsor this show. The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9 sponsor this show, as well as the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150. Giant thank you to those unions for sponsoring this program. And, of course, today's Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Oh, I see the video went out. Hang tight. Watch this, guys. Hold on.
Whoa.
Come on. Where are we at?
Oh, my God. Did you fix it?
I don't.
It's like me and my TV, which hasn't worked in about 2 months since they changed the TV
do the
thing.
old unplug, plug-in move here.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Yeah, don't say that yet, because I still haven't fixed. There we go. We're back up. Yeah.
Just call him Zuckerberg, ladies and gentlemen. He's a
call me
wizard at that computer stuff.
Don't call me that. Please sing the song of the day.
Each moment I wake up, ooh, yeah, ooh.
There's more, right?
Oh, before I put on my makeup, say a little prayer for you.
The Ben Joravsky Show starts now. It is Wednesday, November 20th, and live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, it's our weekly visit with legendary Chicago journalist Monroe Anderson. The director of the Black Harvest Film Festival, Sergio Mims, returns. And we welcome children's book author, Ben, watch your language today, please, Robin Stevenson. And now your host, furthest thing from a children's book author out there, Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this Millions Here, Millions There Wednesday. And here's why. Article in the newspapers today, D, about the City Council Finance Committee convening yesterday to decide which taxes and fines and fees they're going to approve and which taxes, fines, and fees they aren't going to approve. It's all part of the budget process, folks. It takes place every year, roughly this time. The mayor of the city of Chicago, in this case, Lori Lightfoot, proposes a budget, which she claims is balanced. She learned this trick or two from Mayor Rahm, Mayor Daley, who learned it from his dad. Always pretend a budget is balanced. Remember, a budget is merely a projection. You're projecting money to come in. You're projecting expenses that you're going to have to go out, and you always want to project lower expenses going out and more money coming in so you can claim the budget is balanced. Got that, D? Sort of like you and your checkbook. Anyway, so...
I don't have a checkbook. What year is this?
You don't have a checkbook?
No.
You're kidding.
Just go online. Got the debit card. You got everything you need there. Don't often... Oh, I do have a checkbook. I'm sorry. I take that back. I do. I pay my rent with my checkbook.
There you go.
Oh, my God. I stop smoking pot.
You smoking too much reefer. Anyway, so they project... they always project a balanced budget because they want to say that they're fiduciary wizards who are looking out for your best interest. Now, in the past, I've always said, I don't think I would vote for this budget. It would be a Rahm budget or a Mayor Daley budget, just like a send a message. But I think I may have actually voted for this one yesterday, D, in large part because of the Uber tax. That's the big fight between Lori Lightfoot and Uber over fees. And Uber says, we have a great plan that will raise $50 million and provide more service for poor people on the west and south sides immediately. Immediately, I disbelieve them. I have no faith in them whatsoever. There is not a business, large corporation in America today whose primary interests are to look out for the needs of poor black people on the west and south side. Sorry, I said it. Call me cynical. Say, oh, Ben, you're jaded. Well, I said it. So immediately I don't believe them, and I believe Lori Lightfoot. In addition, as we all know, Lori Lightfoot's Uber tax is largely intended to discourage people from taking single rides in the central business district. And Uber wants you to get into their little cars. They want more money. Money, money, money. So anyway, I probably would have voted just to send a message to Uber. On the other hand, there's a few nickel and dime stuff, as there is in every budget. I think I'll go through that, and they hit me hard, D. Yeah, it's like, oh, let's go get Ben. Number one, did you see this? Wait, you didn't do number one. I really missed the number one. $20 million by raising, $20 million by raising the tax on downtown restaurant meals to a whopping 11%. I'm reading this in the Sun-Times, Fran Spielman's article. $20 million by raising the... D, I love eating out. That's really going to hit me hard, man. That's like the Ben tax. And do you think they're going to go after, like, Subway in that tax, too? Do you know the details on that one?
I don't know.
Do a little deep dive.
Number one.
Oh, really? Quick on the draw there, Roy Rogers. Yeah, that little tax, man. Talk about a nickel dime tax. Going after people who eat downtown. I think I read somewhere that's like luxury meals. Somehow they're going to distinguish between a luxury meal. I'm not really. Once a year, the bowling team goes out for a steak dinner. We're going to polish off a sirloin. So I think we'll be hit up there. But otherwise, I think my Subway sandwich visits will be under the radar. So I'm okay there. There's, oh God, this is coming after me, D. $7.8 million by raising hourly parking meter rates to $7 in the Loop, up from $6.50, and to $4.50 in the Central Business District. Here's the part where they're coming after me. Dennis knows exactly what I'm about to say. Quote, that would be followed by annual cost of living adjustments. Meters also will be installed in a broader area of the Loop and the West Loop. As Dennis knows, when I drive, I have a tendency to park like a mile and a half.
God.
I believe that we're all better if we walk. So I make Dennis walk every day. Come on, D, let's walk. Move the legs, move your arms. Let's go. 1, 2, 1, 2. It's like a mile and a half walk from where I park to the studio. But in addition, because I park in some far-off, distant point, which I will not reveal because I don't want to give my secrets away.
Oh, smart.
Yes. Yeah, man. I got a feeling, though, they're on to me, D. I think the city's on to me. We're going to get Ben. They're going to expand the meter district out to where I am. Somehow or other, there's no meters where I park, as you know. So I think they're coming after me. So between the restaurant tax, which is going after me and my bowling buddies, and the meter, expanding the meters, they're really going to come after me. Finally, there is an authorization of $1.5 billion refinancing of city debt, folks. That's all the money that we pay in interest to all the banks who lend us the money. Because we're not that really great at fiduciary oversight, despite all the proclamations of every single mayor that has run this city, going back to Daddy Daley in the 50s and 60s. The reality is that we borrow a huge chunk of the money we need to pay our basic obligations and run our city, and that every year, a good chunk of that is interest to bankers. So just squeeze me and give the money to bankers and throw a parking meter in that secret spot that I've discovered way west from the West Loop.
Where's it at again?
I am not saying. I will not. You thought you were tricky there. Oh, I'll get him to reveal where that secret spot is. No. Anyway, folks.
What street?
Not gonna.
Cross streets, maybe? What's it by? Like, is it by a Burger King?
Bye, American Pie. Is it by a Burger King? There's no Burger King anywhere near, is there?
I don't know. Is there?
I don't
What
think
is by there?
Factories. Aha. No one will know where I park. Actually, I have a feeling this will just make me move further west. So, D, look forward to a 2-mile walk to the studio every day. And I'm really looking forward to that in the pouring rain. Anyway, we have a great show today, everybody. I've decided that I'm in a good mood because I'm paying for city government through my restaurant taxes on the delicious sirloins the bowling team and I have, and the new parking meter tax. You're welcome, City of Chicago. We have a great show today. Monroe will be here. Monroe Anderson. Oh, my God, he's so fired up, D. Right now, he's still listening to the impeachment. I talked to him earlier today. He is fired up by the testimony today. Donald Trump, they nailed him. It's pretty obvious that Donald Trump was extorting. All he wanted was a press conference, a press statement. Hey, Ukraine, you want that money to defend yourself against Russian attacks on your border that are killing hundreds of people? Just hold a press conference and say you're investigating Joe Biden. You don't even have to investigate him. Just have a press conference and say you're investigating him. And then I could tweet out, Crooked Joe. Crooked Joe's up to no good in Ukraine. Unbelievable. So they got him pretty much. Gordon Sutherland's testimony today. Monroe will be talking all about that. Sergio Mims will be in the studio as well. We'll be previewing Sergio Mims, the Pride and Joe of the Black Harvest Film Festival. We're previewing tonight's debate. And then later, as a bonus, I'm really looking forward to this. One of the most popular features we did over the summer, Sergio and Chris Adams and came in, and we did a round table on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Today, we'll be doing one on The Irishman. Cannot wait. We'll be talking mob movies. That's a bonus. The bonus feature we'll drop it next week. Okay, and so I'm really looking forward to that. And then Robin Stevenson will be in here. I hope. I haven't had confirmation. Let me see my phone. Nope, still no confirmation. She is a children's author, and there was a story about her in the Tribune last week. She was going to give a reading in Wheaton, and they pulled the plug on her because in her book, she mentioned Harvey Milk. This is one of my favorite topics. Political correctness from the right. You always hear the right crying the blues about how the lefties are snowflakes.
What's that sound like?
I'm so sad because I can't insult people. I just can't insult them because the left won't make me. They're snowflakes. They call the left snowflakes because the left complains about being insulted by them. And when they complain about the left, they're crying like little babies. So who's the snowflake? I want the right to insult absolutely everybody I don't agree with. Here. Oh, okay. Well, maybe you hurt their feelings, But apparently, the right can have their feelings hurt. There was a mention in Robin Stevenson's book of Harvey Milk, who was the alderman, city councilman in San Francisco, the first openly gay city councilman in San Francisco for 10 trivia points. Who played Harvey Milk in the movie Harvey Milk?
Oh, Franco. James Franco.
No, negatory. James Franco was in the movie.
Oh.
He played a friend, I want to say, of Harvey Milk. The answer is Sean Penn.
That's correct.
Thank you, Robert Mueller. Anyway, I always love it. The rights, they're sobbing, and they kept her from doing a reading in the school, but apparently she got to do a reading after all. So it's interesting. Take a little deep dive into the hypocrisy of the right. You know, they want to be protected when their little feelings are hurt by something that the left says, but they claim the right to be as mean and nasty and as uncivilized as they want in rhetoric to the left. Double standard. Anyway, that's our show today. Before we get to any of that, though, the man, the myth, the legend, the pride and joy of Alton. Oh, yeah, they call him the doctor. He's got the news.
Hi there. How's it going, everybody? Ben, what's it sound like when Republicans are crying again?
Oh, I'm so...
All of our Republican listeners out there, please stay tuned. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. Before we find out what's happening in Chicago and/or Illinois this afternoon, the Benny J YouTube live stream is hopping at the moment. All right, people are weighing in here. We got here Steven weighed in. He says a new game, shots every time Benny makes a pre-1970 reference.
I would say, Stephen, pre-1980. A lot of these are 70s references. Yeah, 70s, big decade for me. 70s.
And then Brianna says, yeah, we'll be drunk by the end of each show. What scares me is that I know most of these references.
Did she know the song I sang? Oh, my God.
What was the song that he sang, Brianna? Please weigh in.
Oh, my God. If I conveyed that song to Brianna.
For those who download, we make sure that everybody can hear us. We test our audio with Ben's Song of the Day. And what was today's Song of the Day,
Well,
Ben?
Today's song was, I can't remember what song it's. Oh, Say a Little Prayer for You was today's song, written by 10. Brianna, who wrote that song?
Brianna. Who? Oh, wait. She's not in the room.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I just got carried away. That song was written by Burt Bacharach. Now, see, that's a tricky thing. Steve said, well, there's pre-1970s. I believe the version that I love the most by Aretha Franklin is a 70s version, D. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who cares? Okay, before we find out what's happening in Chicago and/or Illinois this afternoon, we already went to the live stream. All right, so we're just going to start. We begin with the Illinois governor. J.B. Pritzker began his Wednesday in North Lawndale to celebrate a new family community resource center. Now, Northdale is obviously in Chicago-Cook County. Residents and Chicago lifers just call it Lawndale. They leave the north out of it. But Ben Joravsky, did you know that there is another Lawndale, Illinois?
Wait. Time out. There's South Lawndale in Chicago. There's North Lawndale in Chicago.
Did you know that there's a Lawndale that's nowhere near Chicago in Illinois?
Of course.
Oh, you've been?
Yeah, it's just south of Alton.
Okay.
On Highway 82.
You're lying.
Isn't there a Highway 82?
Lawndale is a community in Logan County, Illinois.
Which is?
Northeast of Springfield. The town lies on Interstate
44.
55. Okay. 44 is like near Missouri.
Is there really a 44?
Highway 44.
Wow.
It's like Missouri going like towards Oklahoma. But the town lies just south of Kickapoo Creek.
I've heard of Kickapoo Creek.
Really?
Isn't there a music festival at Kickapoo Creek?
I don't think so.
Oh.
It has one tavern, a grain elevator, and a converted mobile home as its post office. Man, we got to get down there to Lawndale. Get a ride on that elevator.
I would like to do a remote there at that converted, what was it, the converted trailer? That's now the lawn. The post office. I would definitely do a remote there. And sounds like my kind of town.
So he's not in that Lawndale. He's in North Lawndale in Chicago. And then he's off to Chicago State University to make a capital announcement.
Oh, what's that about?
What could that announcement be, you may be wondering? Well, we don't know. We're clueless until that update becomes available. And, of course, when it becomes available, we'll let you know. So in the meantime, let's speculate, huh? That's always fun.
Yeah.
Because I have a guess as to what his announcement could be. The following comes from Illinois Politico, and Ben, her trip to the state capitol may have paid off after all. Governor J.B. Pritzker vowed to support Mayor Lori Lightfoot's proposal to tweak the Chicago casino tax rate, but shot down the idea for a constitutional change to pension benefits. We mentioned this yesterday. Governor Pritzker met with a crowd of business leaders on Tuesday. Now, yesterday it was being called a fireside chat, but maybe they all realized that sounds like an event from 1910 because today we're being told that it was not a fireside chat. No, it was an economic club luncheon meeting.
Oh, okay. So did they issue a correction?
No correction has been made.
Okay.
But you know, Ben, maybe there's something to these luncheon things.
What's that?
You know what I mean? Maybe after all, because these luncheons, maybe they make you feel confident or something, you know? Lori Lightfoot, well, she's had luncheons like over 1 billion ever since she's been elected.
Yes, that's billion with a B.
Okay, yeah. And Pritzker? I'm waiting to hear.
Maybe they make you feel confident because during this luncheon, literally the richest politician in America, J.B. Pritzker, was indeed feeling himself. Listen to this quote from Pritzker when addressing Mayor Lightfoot's proposal on Springfield, helping out Chicago to get out of this budget deficit a bit. Here's the quote from J.B., quote, "When the mayor of Chicago comes to the governor and asks the legislature to help, I see it as my job to do that." Okay, JB.
All right, JB,
All right.
feeling it.
All right, JB.
He's feeling it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna snap my finger, twist a few arms. This is on the casino, right?
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I don't want to undercut the significance of the governor helping the mayor, but, you know, everybody wants a casino. I'm sure everybody in that room for the fireside chat, not really a fireside chat, whatever it was, they're well-to-do business people are in favor of casino because they're going to make the money off the casino by soaking the suckers and saps who show up for the casino. So, yeah, I could understand why. And plus, now here's the tricky part, and this is where you got to keep your eye on that ball, because what Lori Lightfoot wants the state to do is lower the amount that the governments will take from the casino so they could raise the amount that the operator of the casino can make. So who's going to pay more? Who's going to give up more to the operator, the state or the city? That'll be a fight. So is Governor Pritzker saying, all right, I'll cut back on the amount of revenue that the state's going to get? Well, I'm sure the state's already anticipating some of that revenue as well. So maybe easier said than done. Promising to help Lori Lightfoot, unless the city just takes the casino itself and runs it. There was that idea was floated for a while. Remember that?
More on the casino proposal here. By the way, Lightfoot is looking to change the effective tax rate on a Chicago casino cut from 72% to roughly 40%. Governor Pritzker said that he expects it will be, quote, tackled in the spring session. All right, Joravsky, you're now in the hot seat, buddy. Are we buying any of this? Is Pritzker really going to help us out on this budget? Or is this just Pritzker playing hotshot in front of a bunch of business owners who are more than likely drooling over literally the richest politician in America, J.B. Pritzker?
I'm J.B. Pritzker, and I'm not a perfect person.
I think it's more the latter at this moment, D. As I was saying, the hard part of the rewriting the casino law is figuring out who's going to give up his portion of the take for the operator. Is the city of Chicago going to lose money, or is the state going to lose money? They're going to split it down the middle and each lose the same amount of money? I don't know. That's the wheeling and dealing. Or will the city of Chicago itself run it? Or will they find an operator willing to run who can make, I think they would get 28% of the proceeds. There's got to be somebody out there. Your Uncle Eldon would do it for 28% of the profits, wouldn't he, D?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, so that's so funny. Like, well, we did a report, Lori Lightfoot, they did a report, and nope, can't find a casino operator anywhere in America who's willing to tackle running a casino for 28% of the take. I got to believe there's somebody out there who would do it, D. So
During a Q&A at this luncheon, the governor was asked about pensions. The question, if people are willing to have, quote, shared sacrifice and support the graduated income tax, then why not ask for shared sacrifice across the board and limit the growth of the public employee pension plans? Pritzker said it's wrong to connect those two proposals. A constitutional amendment for a graduated income tax is already headed for the 2020 ballot for voters to consider.
Yeah, all right. Well, this is a crowd of well-to-do business people, as Dennis said earlier, and so they were probably applauding, or as John Lennon would say, oh, here we go. There's a pre-'70s reference for you, Stephen.
Take a shot.
John Lennon, lead singer and one of the lead writers for a group called the Beatles that were very popular in the 1960s.
If you're driving, please don't drink liquor.
Anyway, John Lennon used to say, the people in the front row just, don't cheer, just jangle your jewelry. Anyway, so they were jangling their jewelry and cheering, that suggestion, that question, that middle-class pensioners give up their money. So listen, J.B. Pritzker is a billionaire, it's true, but he ran on the platform of a populist. He said he would impose a fair tax, would make wealthier people like him pay a greater portion of the state income tax, and he would not cut pension benefits. And wealthy people who were the type that were at that speech or his fireside chat want a cut in pensions, because the less money they pay to pensions, the more money there is to pay for things they want, like a greater share of the casino take, all right? It all comes around and full circle. By the way, a front page story in today's Chicago Tribune, excellent article by Alexia Ruiz. For 50,000 using food stamps, job rule looms. There's going to be food stamp cuts in Cook County. And so it's interesting. They're cutting food stamps for people, the working poor and the poor. And meanwhile, the well-to-do are cheering on, urging Pritzker to cut benefits for geezers, retirees, municipal pensioners. Come on, come on, Pritzker, stand strong on this. Now, I know you can get a lot of accolades, pats on the back. They're going to love you forever at whatever wealthy club you hang out with them, but you ran as a populist, so stay true to that.
Stay true to that, and come on, let's cut that deal. We want to go gambling.
That sounds like Pac-Man.
Oh, my God, that did sound like Pac-Man. All right, moving on. The news broke yesterday during the show, and if you're a Chicago political junkie like this guy sitting next to me, you knew this was already coming, but it's official. Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx is running for re-election. She kicked her campaign off yesterday with a 2-minute political campaign ad. We had our good friend and president of the Chicago Principals Association, Troy LaRaviere, on the program when it happened. By the way, if you missed it, don't worry. You can download all of our shows, both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites, or wherever else you download podcasts. I'm working on the TuneIn Radio app, by the way. Doogie asked about the TuneIn Radio app. You love the TuneIn Radio app, right, Ben?
I own one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, the whole app, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. All right, we heard a bit of the ad yesterday, and in moments, we're going to play the whole thing. But first, Ben, real quick, thoughts on the portion of the ad that you heard?
Well, okay, the portion that you played yesterday, as opposed to the one you're going to play today?
I'm playing the entire thing today.
Oh, all right. Well, the one that we played yesterday was really accentuating her humble beginnings from Cabrini Green to give people a sense of what an inspirational story she has, that she rose out of, poverty. She grew up in public housing, and she became a lawyer, and now she's the chief prosecutor in Cook County for the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. So it's an inspiring story for Kim Foxx. Now, okay, this is her second time around that she's telling that story, and it's hard to understand. I don't know if voters are going to buy it right now, but it's very important that she deflect attention from Smollettgate. And the full portion that you're going to play now, Dee, gets into Smollettgate. So let's hear what she has to say about it, and then we'll unpack it.
It's different now. But I grew up at Larrabee and Division, better known as Cabrini Green. It's where I learned to be tough, to survive, overcame poverty and sexual assault. For years, the name Cabrini Green was synonymous with racism and poverty, and the towers were symbols for inequality and injustice in Chicago. Time passed, and the projects came down, but those problems haven't changed. Now new names symbolize injustice. Names like John Burge and Laquan McDonald. 4 years ago, I ran for state's attorney to change criminal justice in Cook County. I'm running again because we're only getting started. State's attorney is a tough job. Every day my office is under attack. From a president who uses our city as a punching bag, the NRA hell-bent on letting guns flood our streets, and the FOP clinging to the old ways. They'll do anything to undercut progress, including attacking me personally over the Jussie Smollett case. Truth is, I didn't handle it well. I own that. I'm making changes in my office to make sure we do better. That's what reform is about. But we all know, those attacks aren't just about one case. They're about stopping progress in Cook County. And those voices won't tell you that on my watch, We're prosecuting more violent crimes, not just low-level offenses. That gun prosecutions are up. That we're a national model for reform. And that while they focus on headlines, we put the killers of Hadiyah Pendleton and Tyshawn Lee behind bars. So hear it from me, a girl from Cabrini and a woman standing up to that old boys club. We're on the right path to reforming criminal justice in Cook County and making the system work for everyone. But there's still work to do, and I need your help. Join me.
Jeff Manuel on the piano.
All right, that was a pretty clever pivot. I'm glad you played the whole thing, and I heard the whole thing. All right, let's unpack this a little bit. As you all know, I call it Smollett Gate. It's Jussie Smollett, deals with the actor who made up the complete contrivance, which I think everybody agrees. He just made it up that he was assaulted by a couple of MAGA hat-wearing Trump supporters. The Chicago Police Department, when they heard his report, obviously they didn't believe it, and they sent, I forget how many man-hours were spent dedicated to proving that he had made it up. And in the middle of that investigation, Kim Foxx took a phone call from a big-time political operative named Tina Chen. I can't believe I still remember this stuff. You got to give me credit, man. I'm just doing this off the top of the head without notes. And she took a phone call from Tina Chen. Tina Chen said the family's very concerned about quotes coming out, unsourced quotes coming out from the police department. They would like the matter turned over to the FBI for investigation. At that point, sometime thereafter, Kim Foxx herself called Eddie Johnson, the police chief, City of Chicago, and expressed her concerns, conveyed her concerns. When all was said and done, the case was not handed over to the FBI. Of course, when all was said and done, charges were leveled against Jussie Smollett for making the whole thing up, and then those charges were dropped. And he cut a deal with Kim Foxx. So, yes, I think it's pretty clear, it's pretty evident that she, as to quote, I didn't handle it well. I own that. Yes, you didn't handle it well. In fact, you did a disservice to the movement that you represent by the way you handle it. You've given ammunition to all the right-wingers out there who want to drive you from office. So, yes, to put it mildly, it was a bad move by you. And will it lead to her political downfall, Dee? I do not think so, and I'll tell you why. And I just addressed this in a Reader column just the other day. The hypocrisy out of the Republican Party is so putrid, it's so offensive that they're making such a big deal about how Kim Foxx handled the Smollett case, and looking the other way or defending Donald John Trump as he intimidates witnesses, as he defies subpoenas, as he orders aides not to testify, as they mock and malign anybody who dares to come forth under oath to talk about how he was shaking down the Ukrainian president. And that's just one episode of Republicans looking the other way at Donald John Trump's crimes. Donald John Trump was taking money that people had given to his charity and spending it for like buying a portrait for one of his hotels. Donald John Trump, I think he has at least 17 or 18 accusations, public accusations of sexual assault or sexual harassment from various women in this country against him. Not a word out of the Republicans. So when Kim Foxx makes that pivot and talks about how she's been under siege by Republicans, she's sending a message to Democratic voters in Cook County and Chicago that the Republicans are a bunch of freaking hypocrites. They're making such a big deal about Smollett Gate, and they're looking the other way at all of Donald John Trump's crimes. And you know what, Dee? I find that a convincing argument. I want to be above it all. I want to say no. We just have to search for truth regardless of party. But you know what? After a while, it's like a sucker's game. It's like the fair map. The fair map is the biggest sucker's game in the state of Illinois. You got all these do-gooder Republicans, Democrats coming together saying, oh, let's make a fair map in which everybody is represented equally, so we take...
Was that an impression of anybody in particular?
And just every sucker and sap.
No one in particular.
No one in particular.
Okay.
And, let's have a fair map. Oh, I'm now going to do a dance to a fair map. Dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. This is a dance to a fair map. Meanwhile, Republicans...
Sounded like Skillicorn to me, but go ahead.
Who?
That Skillicorn guy, the Republican in Illinois.
Oh, gee, I didn't even know that. Maybe I'm channeling in my inner Skillicorn. And meanwhile, the Republicans in Michigan or up in Michigan trying to, they're challenging a law that would have made a fair map. That would, again, but in that case, Republicans would lose seats. So when it comes to Republicans losing seats, the Republicans are against fair maps. When it comes to Democrats losing seats, they're for fair maps. In other words, they're hypocrites. So it's the same thing with criminal justice. When it comes to Donald John Trump breaking the law, oh, come on now. You're trying to undo an election. When it comes to Kim Foxx making phone calls, this is the greatest outrage I've ever seen in the entire history of civilization. So I'm tired of playing that sucker's game. When the Republicans stand up and start treating evidence of wrongdoing by Donald Trump in a serious manner and hold him accountable, then I'll play along and hold Democrats accountable. But this is ridiculous at some point. It's a sucker's game, double standard. So I think most voters in Cook County, at least a plurality of voters in a Democratic primary will see it that way, and Kim Foxx will be victorious. That's my prediction, young man.
No collusion.
Well, there you go.
All right, everybody.
Proves my point.
So that's what's going on in Chicago and or Illinois this afternoon. Of course, we'll keep you posted on these stories as today's program rolls along. This is typically when we go to break, but we want to talk to you guys here for a little bit. First off, next week, Thanksgiving week, no shows. We're going to be, we're taking the whole week off.
No live shows.
No live shows. No live shows. We're not going to be doing the live stream. So everybody listening on the live stream right now, we're not going to be on next week. Ben's headed to L.A. Is that
I'm
right?
visiting my daughters
Going
for
Hollywood,
Thanksgiving.
going big time.
Where's my sunglasses?
Oh, get your sunglasses,
Hold on.
please. Oh, okay, great. We got nothing going on. So Ben's going to be going to L.A., hanging out with his family. I'm going to go back home to downstate Illinois.
Hanging out with your family.
See how long I can hang down there. Usually lasts about 3 days. I'm like, all right, get me the hell out of here.
I'm sorry, man. What'd you say?
Oh, he's got his sunglasses
By the way,
on.
whoa. Hold on. Not only sunglasses, but
Uh-oh.
I'm wearing my moccasins.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And new shoes.
Well, they're not new. I just realized I hadn't worn them in a while. I go, oh my God, I'm going to wear them. And I'm just feeling my inner Brad Pitt with the sunglasses and the shoes. You know, your favorite movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
yeah.
You've seen it, what, 5 times?
Yeah.
Brad Pitt walks around wearing these moccasins. It's like so cool. So me with my shades, my moccasins going to L.A., I'm cool.
Whatever makes you feel better, Ben. Whatever makes you feel better.
Yeah, whatever gets me through the day.
So we're going to be gone all next week, but we're going to be putting the hammer down, as my dad would say, with a lot of Benny J bonus shows, okay, to provide you people with some content while we're gone.
We've been taping them all week.
Yeah.
We taped one last night.
Yes, we did. We talked about the Chicago Bulls, Ben's beloved Bulls. My goodness.
Yes.
They're not that great this year so far. But, hey, you'll find out more about that with this Benny J bonus interview. But an idea that we had is kind of a Q&A. So if you're listening, if you listen to this podcast, or if you're listening for the first time, reach out to us if there's any question that you would like to ask Ben, or I guess myself. If you want to ask me a question, that's fine. We have an email address. We don't give it out that much, but BennyJShow@gmail.com. BENNY, the letter J, show, SHOW, @gmail.com. If there's any question that you have at all, we will answer it. It'll be like a Q&A show that we'll have. So send us your emails. Once again, BennyJShow@gmail.com is the email. Whatever question you have, what's Ben's favorite, I don't know, song? What's,
That's a hard one. What's my favorite song? My favorite
what's Ben's
movie?
favorite
favorite politician?
Yeah, whatever question you
favorite
have.
Politician.
Why do you sing so much? I don't know. Whatever you got.
You know what? I'm doing a column for next week. I'm doing a column for next week. Things I'm thankful for, but things I'm not really thankful for. We're actually going to probably do. You and I are going to do a bit in this. In other words, so for instance, give an example. Like usually when I write the Thanksgiving column, I give thanks to people that I really am appreciative of, like Monroe Anderson, my dear friend, who has been keeping us informed on all the impeachment proceedings against Donald John Trump even before there was impeachment proceedings. But this time I'm going to get thankful for people and things and institutions that give me stuff to write about. So I'm not really thankful for them.
Oh, there you go.
Whoa. Like the TIF program, for instance.
Get
the secret slush
bong out.
So anything like you want to get off your chest, any kind of Donald John Trump, For being a brute. Republicans for being utter hypocrites. How about the Chicago Tribune editorial board for writing?
Oh, you love them.
Wretched. But I tell you what, I feel for the Chicago Tribune. In all seriousness, I just saw a story today. Michael Farrell sold to some hedge fund that's probably going to fire a bunch of people. And I make fun of the Tribune's editorial board all the time because the editorials they write are so silly and so filled with hypocrisy and double standards, and they just like sort of hate poor people in general. But there's a lot of good journalists. Monroe Anderson knows this. There's a lot of really excellent journalists on the news side of the Chicago Tribune. And I worry that these cuts will hurt them.
Right.
And they'll keep those trashy editorials, and they'll get rid of like really qualified, important journalists. So I'm hoping that the new owners of the Tribune leave alone the product, because you have, except for that editorial page, a very good product, in my humble opinion.
And we're hoping that you'll send us an email at bennyjshow@gmail.com. Like I said, we're going to be doing a Q&A here. No live shows Tuesday through Friday, all right? Brianna's on the live stream chat. No shows? Oh, my God. What will I put in my headphones to drown out my relatives? That's pretty funny.
We're going to have shows.
Download them.
To make this thing, we're going to have shows every day. We're going to do.
I'll have them by 1 p.m., the time that we start. All you got to do is just go to Chicago Sun-Times or Chicago Reader websites. We'll have a Benny J bonus right there for you. We're doing what we can here. And once again, it would be great if you're listening to this and you have a question. Doesn't matter. Just put your first name, where you're from, and ask us a question. And we'll see if Ben ducks and dodges it.
I've been known to duck and dodge a question every now and then.
That's correct.
So, once again, BennyJShow@gmail.com, BENNY, the letter J show@gmail.com. Send us your questions, and you can download the Benny J bonus interviews that we're going to be airing in place of the live show. ChicagoReader.com, Chicago.suntimes.com/pages/Joravsky, or wherever else you download podcasts. I have I'll put the link in the live stream chat as well. Okay, I'm done talking. Coming up after this short little break, Monroe Anderson's with us, and we're going to talk things all Donald Trump impeachment. Don't go anywhere. It's the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times. The Ben Joravsky Show is supported by Northwestern University's part-time master's program in literature and liberal studies. Students learn from dynamic and diverse faculty as they build advanced skills for critical analysis, writing, and research. Evening classes are held on Northwestern's Evanston and Chicago campuses. The spring quarter application deadline is January 15th. Learn more at sps.northwestern.edu/masters.
And we view that this is a civil rights issue. We think that the conditions in our schools, we think that support for our students that need trauma support, social workers, psychologists, counselors. We think that adequate services for special education.
Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan. Commercial break over. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Monroe Anderson has pulled himself away from the TV where he's been watching the ongoing impeachment inquiry that the Democrats in Congress Let's see, we're in day 4, day 5. I'm trying to figure out. I've lost track of time.
Well, it started last Wednesday.
Last Wednesday,
Yeah,
Thursday.
so it's-
2 last Wednesday, day 4. All right. Gordon Sondland, who is the ambassador to the European Union, testified this morning. Yesterday, it was Alexander Vindman and Jennifer Williams. And in each instance, the Democrats are trying to make the point that Donald Trump, or was trying to get these witnesses to make the point that Donald Trump had ordered a shakedown of the Ukraine president to force him to turn over, to have a statement that he was going to investigate Biden and his son.
A public statement.
A public statement. That's what it
all
is,
he
man.
wanted. He didn't want an investigation. He didn't care about that.
Well, we didn't care
Yeah,
about
right,
corruption.
exactly.
I mean, just Monroe, for a moment now, the utter hypocrisy of the Republican Party. And I've been going on and on about this, all right? I've been going on and on. I'm not talking about, let's put aside the congressman in Washington. We'll get into what they did. They're drilling. They're playing the role of the defense attorney for Donald John Trump.
Yes.
What about all the Republicans in Cook County who are so outraged by Michael Madigan and so outraged by payoffs by Democratic legislators, but can't seem to see extortion when extortion, well, one person says this and another person says that.
Now,
Who knows?
On Facebook today, Thomas Raleigh, I think his name is, he's a buddy of Frank Coconati. And they have a whole thing going on about how crooked the Democrats are in Illinois.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, right. I mean, and they got it. And they want to talk. They wonder why aren't we talking about that instead of the president?
All right, time out. I don't know this dude Thomas. I know Frank Coconati. I've known Frank forever. Frank Coconati is a city employee. He got fired. He was unjustly fired, so he can't stand Democrats. And I don't blame him for disliking Democrats. He was a Democrat, so now he's gone all the way the other. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, and now he loves Donald John Trump. Whatever. Okay,
right.
That's Frank Coconati. What excuse does the Chicago Tribune editorial page have? What excuse do the big-time Republicans
Well,
in
the
state of
Chicago
Illinois?
Tribune is a Republican newspaper. Has been since the beginning.
So
they were an abolitionist newspaper when they started. And now
They've come a long way from an abolitionist newspaper.
Right, exactly. No, I think they said their attitude was free them, but then don't give them anything to do and put them in jail.
That sounds like an editorial I may have read last week. So my point is that there is absolutely a double standard that goes on when it comes to corruption, Democratic corruption and Republican corruption. And there is no principled opposition by Republicans to corruption. There is no principled opposition by Republicans to extortion. When Rod Blagojevich does it, they're outraged, send him to jail, 14 years. When Donald John Trump does it, on one hand this, on one hand that. Oh, well, and then they change the subject.
It's been a rolling situation. When it first broke, the story first broke, it didn't happen. It was just, it was a hoax, period. Then each time some new evidence comes out showing that the president was, in fact, shaking down the president of Ukraine to get arms for dirt, then they came up with a different excuse. Their latest thing is that since the Democrats wised up and quit this non-quid pro quo business, which is Latin, and most of us speak English in this country, not Latin. And so the Democrats wised up and just started calling it bribery and extortion.
Which is what it is.
Which is what it is, which is what everybody explains. Well, the Republicans are saying that what the Democrats keep changing, moving the goalposts, that they keep changing the charges. And the reality is quid pro quo, this for that, is the same as bribery or extortion. I mean, it's all in the same illegal ballpark.
Well, no matter what you call it, it still amounts to a shakedown.
Yes.
And what I'm saying is that either you're against shakedowns by powerful politicians, so they don't get more powerful than the president of the United States, or you don't care about shakedowns. So I don't think you should get so outraged by Louis Arroyo, a state representative from the northwest side of Chicago, like, bribing, passing on bribes to get business for a certain company, allegations of that.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be outraged by that.
There's an easier way to approach this. Is imagine if Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton had committed any of these crimes.
Yeah.
They would be screaming at the top of their voices.
Absolutely.
They'd be marching through the streets with torches like white supremacists and stuff. I mean, it would be a completely different situation. Now they're falling over each other, twisting themselves into knots to try to protect Trump.
Absolutely.
And their last thing, because it's so obvious now that he did it, so their last refuge is going to be, well, he did it, but it's not worthy of taking him out of office when there's less than a year left to go, and the voter can do it.
Well, that's a whole other story, and I can make the same. I make the same argument about Cook County corruption. Voters have the right, if they want to unseat Michael Madigan.
Yeah.
Michael Madigan comes before the voters every 2 years.
Right.
Voters have the right to unseat every single Democrat who's in power. So you could flip the switch. You could say the Republicans on one hand, Sergio Mims has joined us. Sergio Mims has joined us, co-founder of the Black Harvest Film Festival in the city of Chicago, has a lot of opinions about everything. We're just going to throw him in the mix. You could make the argument, the same argument that Republicans are making in defense of Donald Trump, which is don't kick him out of office because that would undo an election that occurred in 2016, even though he didn't really win the election. And you should let the voters decide in 2020. That same argument could be made against every single Democratic politician in the state of Illinois. By that argument, he shouldn't have impeached Rod Blagojevich. Rod Blagojevich was duly elected by the citizens of Illinois in 2006, and he would have faced.
And the other thing is that he's in prison for doing what Trump did.
Yes, he is in prison for doing what Trump did. So I'm just saying that I'm having a really hard time with the utter hypocrisy of Republicans at this stage. And I say this as a writer who's dedicated years of my life to battling the Chicago machine and writing one article after another, savaging for their corruption.
Right, same here.
And when I just see like all standards going out the window, when I see just Republicans just playing like going hard like they're Dudley Do-Right when it comes to Michael Madigan and going soft, when it comes to Donald Trump.
What amazes me is how these anti-communist, anti-Russia party is now coddling up to Putin, and they're defending the things going on in Russia. They have been so much for the military, but now they're attacking Lieutenant Colonel
Alexander Vindman.
Yeah, they're attacking him for showing up in uniform with his Purple Heart on it. It's amazing.
All right, so while I've been in the studio today, what is Gordon Sutherland? He is the ambassador to the European Union, a Trump appointee. He was testifying today.
Yeah, and he's the guy, in case you've forgotten, that gave $1 million to the inaugural fund, Trump Inauguration Fund. He bought the seat, in other words.
I got you. Okay.
Right,
But
okay.
Trump said this morning that he didn't know him. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that.
Outside the White House. I don't know the guy. I don't know him.
Well,
if he had testified the other way, he would be.
He was. Earlier on, he was a really great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a really great guy, according to Trump.
But now that he's testifying, I never heard of him.
Yeah,
Who?
right,
The guy that gave you $1 million. Never heard of him.
Right, exactly.
So, all right. So his test. All right. So this is the guy who gave $1 million, donated $1 million. He looked at everything in the world that needed money. like all the causes in the world, like maybe he could give money for a cure for cancer. Maybe he could give money to eradicate poverty in our time, huh? No, you know what needs $1 million?
The inauguration.
The inauguration party. Yeah, so if Donald Trump can't pay for it himself.
Oh, and he's suffering a hardship too, because people are boycotting his hotels now.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. On Yelp, I saw that this morning. Yelp, that website where people can review restaurants, hotels. Everybody's bashing his hotels on Yelp.
Sondland's hotels.
Right.
Yeah, not Trump's hotels. Sondland's
Oh, they've been bashing all
right,
right.
exactly.
Hey, what's interesting was this morning, Ken Starr, of all people, said that maybe it's time for the GOP to make a visit to the White House. That's interesting. 1974 all over again.
You mean make a visit like the visit that Barry Goldwater made
Right.
to Richard Nixon
That's
to
what he
say
meant.
it's time to step down? Oh, I thought he meant make a visit to the White House and do a deposition under oath.
No.
Of
He
Donald
means
Trump.
it's time for some of the GOP Senate to make a visit to the White House and say, you think maybe it's time to start packing up your bags.
Well, all right, that is interesting.
And
But-
Ken Starr of all people.
Yeah, Ken Starr, of course, who was investigating Bill Clinton and led the impeachment of Bill Clinton. Now, wait a minute, Monroe. So, did Sondland, in his testimony today, I just saw the very start of it. I hadn't seen the part where the Republicans got the counterattack.
Yeah.
Did
It
Sondland?
wasn't much of a counterattack. It wasn't. I didn't think it was much.
Yeah,
of a
no, it was the last part I heard. In
Wait,
the
time
car.
out. Before you get to the counterattack, what did he
Okay.
say before the counterattack?
Oh, he said there was a quid pro quo. Quid pro quo.
Quid pro quo.
Quid pro quo. There was a quid pro quo, and that Pence knew about it. Pompeo knew about it.
Everybody knew about it.
Everybody knew about it. He told on everybody.
Everybody's under that bus.
Exactly, right. Exactly. He
I'm
told
not
on
going to jail
everybody, right.
for you guys.
And of course, what's delicious about this is that if we throw in Pence in the impeachment with Trump and we get rid of both of them, President Pelosi.
Monroe's been singing this song for a long time.
You know what? I would say he's dreaming.
Yeah.
But you know what? I said for months this he's not going to be impeached. Now things changed because it wasn't because of the Russia probe, right?
Yeah.
It was because of something else, right?
The Ukraine probe.
Yeah.
But okay, fine. He was right. So I would laugh at him right now and said, President Pelosi? Hey, I don't know.
No way. No way.
Yeah, no, they won't do it.
They won't do it. No way. That is a bet. You could go to, even I'm
they
a
won't
reform
do it.
gambler. I don't bet, but go to Vegas on that one, folks.
Right.
No way
They won't do it.
are the Republicans in the Senate going to break from Donald Trump. It's not going to happen. They're, all right.
Okay.
No, they may go visit the White House because they will have Pence. I mean, this is what's so crazy about them whining about there being a coup, that the Democrats are trying to do a coup. It's only a coup if they get rid of both Trump and Pence. Otherwise, you're replacing Trump with Pence. So the party still has the power. So Republicans still there, on and on. So it's not a coup. A coup is when you overturn a government completely.
But, you can say it's the old thing where you step down and Pence will pardon you after a period of time, like Nixon. Ford pardoned Nixon.
Oh, he may not after a period of time. I think that'll be
Immediately?
right. I think that'll be the deal.
Wait.
Okay.
What'll be the deal? That Trump would.
That Pence will pardon Trump.
Okay, guys, you are so far ahead of yourself. First of all, Trump's not stepping down. Okay. The Republicans
Hey, you know what?
are
I
gonna,
can't predict things anymore. Not in this crazy topsy-turvy world we live in.
No, I think Trump might step down.
No way.
I think Trump. Yeah.
I will make a bet at a Chicago restaurant where they've raised the taxes, as I just said. So a nice Chicago restaurant where they've just raised the taxes. No way Trump is going to step down.
Okay, let me ask you this. When he made that surprise visit
Yes.
for examination,
Yeah.
I heard
Uh-huh.
he was having chest pains.
Where did you hear that? What do
I
you have,
got
like a
sources.
source in the White House?
Yes, I do.
Sergio
I do.
Mims, Black Harvest Film Festival.
I do.
It's got sources in the White House?
You'd be surprised the people I know and
There
what I
has
hear.
been speculation on the internet.
Yeah, okay, people are speculating on the internet, and that is one thing, but like having a legitimate source in the White House, I didn't know you had Republican friends. You do have a Republican friend,
Who's
don't you?
that?
I'm not going to state it, but you have a Republican. You've mentioned it on the show. Some well-connected lawyer.
Oh, I know who it is. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
He's an acquaintance. It's not like he's a friend.
Okay, all right, whatever.
They go out and have hot chocolate together.
So anyway, all right. So that's that Walter Reed thing. That broke this weekend when I wasn't paying attention, and somebody called me up and go, "Ben, what do you think about the Walter Reed thing?" And I didn't know what they were talking about.
I didn't hear. Right. It wasn't until after it happened I heard about it. So what are you talking about?
Yeah, and then I went and read it, and I thought, this is much ado about nothing. But now you're telling me that Trump had chest pains. That's what you're hearing?
That's what I hear.
All right.
No, it's out there.
Okay. Well, you can throw anything out there. It'll go on.
No. This is the reason.
All right.
Reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
Is that they took him quietly. You know, if it was part of some physical, then they would have announced it, and it would have been on a schedule and what have you. They took him there quietly, and then because he's good at covering up, they had him talk to some patients there after whatever they did with him.
Listen, Donald Trump. I think it was you that said that Donald Trump is in such bad physical shape. This is a whole separate story. You've been saying it forever.
Right.
Yeah, no, he had him dead by now.
Yeah, so Sergio.
Hey, still got a year.
Yeah. So the views and opinions of Sergio Mims are those of only Sergio Mims.
That's
not
right.
necessarily fresh.
You come to me.
Yeah. But anyway,
We got Dr. D and we got
Dr. Sergio.
That's right.
Dr. Mims making house visits. No, all right. Donald Trump. I mean, when it comes to Donald Trump and his medical pass, it's almost like Donald Trump and his IRS statements, and it's largely fictitious. There was that incredible report that the doctor did. Remember the physical?
I know.
Sergio,
He's like superhuman. He's
225.
225. Yeah, right.
God dang, 225.
Right.
425 maybe.
Right. Well, he
pounds.
also grew 2 inches too. He was 6'3".
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of fiction when it comes to Donald Trump and his medical records. All right. So going back to the Republican counterattack, Gordon Sondland, the hotel manager or owner who gave $1 million, had a lot of money, to the Trump inauguration party, and in exchange, wow, there's a quid pro quo, got to be the ambassador to the European Union, testified today that absolutely everybody knew about an effort to extract a press statement, a press conference from the Ukrainian president, and at which point they would release the military aid. If that's not a shakedown, I do not know what it is.
No, you're forgetting another element of it.
What?
A White House visit.
Oh,
Zelensky
right, the White House
was trying
yes.
to go to the White House because he's trying to be legitimized. He's a new president, and he's trying to be legitimate. And plus he needed the meeting with Trump in Washington to back Putin off. Because then it's like, okay, see, me and Trump.
And remember, we're talking about
Buddies.
Zelensky, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a guy who previously was a comedian.
Yes, correct. Yeah, that is
right.
correct.
And have you seen one of his skits?
No, I know. First of all, isn't it in another language? You've seen it with English subtitles.
Well, you don't need language to understand
He
it.
speaks Ukraine. Too.
No. The skit is, you haven't seen this? You can go. You can find it on YouTube. It's he and another guy are at a piano.
Yeah.
And they're pretending that they take their penises out and playing the piano with their penises. You haven't seen this?
No, I've not seen this.
You can
I'll have to
find
check,
it.
yeah.
He's Trump's kind of guy.
Yeah.
Right. This guy is the president of Ukraine.
All right. Wait. So let me get back to the Republican counterpunch. So Sondland was pretty clear that everybody was in on this scam, and that starting with the president going on down, and they were trying to extort the president of Ukraine to give this statement, have this press conference, make this visit, and then in exchange for doing that, they would release money, military aid that Congress had already approved.
Exactly.
That they didn't even have the right to withhold anyway.
Right.
Why Rob Blagojevich is still in federal prison and Donald Trump getting away with this, I do not know. Anyway, so what was the great Republican counterpunch today?
Their counterpunch was that
You see?
Yeah, that's such a bad counter.
Sondland, they asked Sondland if Trump had said any of this to him personally.
As opposed to all these emails and from the various operatives in the White House saying, POTUS wants this, boss wants this, P wants. They got like 5 different words for Trump.
But their defense is that Sondland is taking credit for second and third witness information.
I see. Well,
you're flailing. That's what it is. They're flailing.
Right, exactly. Now, they're flailing all over because they're still trying to make the argument that the Ukraine was in fact working to keep Trump out of office in 2016. I mean, they got all these really weird theories that are hard to keep up with because they make no sense.
Basically, they have 10 different excuses so far.
Right.
I just read an article before yesterday, listing all the various excuses since the very beginning. They total about 10. Now, maybe right now it's about 11. They don't have anything. They're flailing.
No, here's the bottom line. They do not want to acknowledge that Donald Trump committed a crime, and they do not want to give up that power. Right. They do not want to give up the control of the purse. They do not want to give up the control of appointing judges. They do not want to relinquish anything, and so as a result, they're throwing away any shred of credibility they have that they actually care about the principles at stake here. And that's why I'm saying, Sergio, I'm through with it.
Well,
I'm through with it, man.
I heard a theory this morning. I can't remember one of the morning shows. Somebody speculated that the Republicans know he's finished. And what the deal is that they're hoping that the Southern District of New York nails him on stuff. Okay. So then they can basically wash their hands of him. But at the same time, be distant from it and saying, oh, it's terrible what they're doing to him, but let somebody else do the dirty work that we are too scared to do. That's one theory I heard this morning. And I said, well, that kind of sounds feasible.
I don't know. They seem very passionate about defending Donald Trump. I mean, they...
No.
Now they're going through the motions. They're really going through the motions.
The base is passionate about it, and so therefore they are. And they're Jim Joyner's and Nunes, Devon Nunes. They are passionate.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
How passionate now you think though that base is? You think he still really has that fervent support among the base that he had all this time, or is it beginning to wane?
No, it's strong.
It's strong.
It's strong.
It's strong.
It is really strong. Now, when you move beyond the base, it's clear to me that your traditional Republican voter is feels like a upscale suburbanite, feels a little awkward about.
No. Trump has lost the suburbs. The educated whites
at the moment. At the moment.
Oh no, he's not gonna. It's gonna get worse.
I guess. I mean, that's. But that's not the base. I don't consider that like.
No, it's not the
that's
base.
not the Donald
35.
Trump base.
No, that's the 35% is the base. The 35%.
Yeah. So then there's the others that join. Well, we'll give a shot to Donald Trump. We'll see what he's like. We don't like Hillary Clinton. We don't like Democratic policies.
And the ones that held their nose because of the pussy grabbing and everything else. So they voted for him because they didn't like Hillary, or they're supposed to be Republicans. So they said, well, this guy stinks up the place, but we'll vote for him and see how he does. They're gone, and they're not coming back.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, because this impeachment inquiry that's now going on, each day gets worse and worse and worse for him and them.
You see, but I agree with what Maya says all the time on your show, that the Democrats need to concentrate on the people who didn't vote last time. Forget the base. Forget the hardcore Trumpers, right? Because they're never going to leave. Even though I'm beginning to suspect that's beginning to waver a little bit. I don't know about that 35%. Is it down now to maybe 33%? I don't know. But you got to concentrate on the people who did not come out to vote the last time. That is what the Democrats have to do. Stop trying to appease those Trumpers because they're not leaving him. Even if it's down to 15%, forget them.
Yeah.
Put him out on a ship and just let it sail away.
Well, the thing is, Hillary would have won.
Hillary did win, but anyway, go back to your point.
Hillary would have won if she wasn't Hillary.
Yeah.
The election.
Stop it.
He's a Bernie bro right over there.
I know. We have this argument all the time.
Exactly.
A Bernie bro and a Hillary.
No, I'm a realistic, pragmatic.
Seems to be a recurring
Political.
scenario on our program. Monroe and then a Bernie person sitting right next to him every week.
Right.
Because it's really hard to find anymore. I'm just going to throw this out there. Hillary people that still say, I was for Hillary. Monroe, Del Marie are the only two that I know.
Right, exactly, because we're pragmatists. Whereas Bernie's not.
Pragmatism means, okay, I'm stuck with this guy who cheats on me, but I got to stay with him to stay in power. That's being a pragmatist, right?
You
Like
have
Hillary
to admit,
Clinton.
Monroe, you have to admit, you have to make this concession.
Right.
That Bill Clinton, when you sum it all up, has been a disaster for the Democratic Party post him leaving office, and that the time has come for the Democrats once and for all
Absolutely.
to cut the ties to the Clintons. That
They have. You guys are still stuck in 2016.
They still have that misty-eyed thing
No.
I'll believe you
Yeah,
if
right.
in 2020 in
Right.
Milwaukee at the Democratic National Convention,
Yeah.
will Bill Clinton be given a speaking role? He's been allowed to speak, I believe, at every single convention. I think Gore may have kept him out. I can't remember. 2000, Frank looked that up. But in 2004, 2008, he gave the great speech. Remember for the argument for Barack Obama.
No, he's a great speaker.
Yeah, but the point.
Yeah, as Barack said, he's the president of explaining everything.
Yeah.
So no, they'll have him there, but the thing is,
Got to cut the tie.
Right.
They don't have to cut that tie.
Yes, they did.
don't.
Didn't I bring
They
up
don't.
that question last time was on?
What's that?
Will they let Hillary Clinton speak in Milwaukee at next year's convention?
Monroe.
And I said no.
Wait.
If they're smart, cut them loose. And you asked me, also Bill, and I said no too. Don't have them speak.
They may not let
Monroe,
her speak. They may not let her speak.
here we go. We're going to put him on the spot.
Yeah, right.
Should the Democrats allow Hillary Clinton a speaking role at their 2020 convention in Milwaukee?
It depends on who the nominee is.
Well, now, why do you say that? Why do you give a little qualifier? Why do you say that?
Because if it's Bernie, no.
But if it's Bernie, wouldn't you need
Yes,
the
but then-
centrist?
then you
would
make the
need the
argument, yeah,
centrist.
then.
If you have a centrist, you don't
Right.
want to tag that centrist. Let's say it's Sergio's favorite candidate, Mayor Pete. Just
No,
kidding.
hey, wait a
Just
minute.
kidding. That's just a tease for when he's got something he wants to unleash. Let's say it's a centrist. Mayor Pete's right, #1 in the polls in Iowa. We're going to get into that. Sergio has been dying to talk
We'll
about
get
something.
into that.
We'll get into it. But right now, Mayor Pete's #1, and we have Deval Patrick. We have Michael Bloomberg. All these centrists say, oh, my God, the nomination is there for the taking. We cannot allow a lefty to have it. So let's say it's a centrist. That centrist would really be hurt if you just had another centrist.
Well, Bloomberg is running on that theory that you just said.
Well, is he really running or not? I don't know yet.
But I don't think Deval
Patrick.
Deval Patrick is running just on that. I think he's running because he suddenly decided this thing is up for grabs, and so anybody can get it. So I may as well.
Well,
get
he's
in there,
positioning
too.
himself as Obama, too.
Right.
Yeah, but
And-
he's got a ton of baggage.
Well, okay,
Got a
and the
ton of
baggage that he has. Now we're moving into the second segment, which is great, which is tonight's debate and how the Democrats long-term deal with Trump. But the baggage that a Deval Patrick has, Sergio, is that he's tied to centrist policies that the Democratic Party is moving away from, is evolving out of, if you want to use that term. And they're trying to figure out
Well,
the
the main
Democrats right
problem
now.
is that he's working for the
Bain Capital.
Bain Capital.
Exactly.
Okay, and so
which they jammed up Romney on, and
Right.
so he's there now.
But then
that
it's
just
the oldest thing involving the board, the parole board about his brother-in-law.
No, but what I'm saying is that him working for Bain accentuates the inconsistency of the Democratic Party to speak with one voice when it comes to social issues that or to economic issues that affect people. So, for instance, like Bain would be advancing a plan where one company buys another company and then lays off the people, and in the name of productivity and more money for the profit, more money for the stockholders. That's what Bain does. The Democratic Party should be about protecting workers from being laid off and having.
Well, he's not going anywhere. Patrick's not going anywhere.
No.
He won't make it. I don't know why he's doing this.
Well,
something
Except
else.
he just wants to.
he wants to be president of the United States.
Well, no, he's going to be a lot of flash in the pants like Fred Thompson and Rick Perry. These guys will come and they flame out real fast.
Where did you pull Fred Thompson out? That is a great one from the past. Do you remember Fred Thompson?
Yeah, I remember from the
senator
movie.
The actor?
Yeah, the actor.
Right.
He was an actor. Can you name a movie he was in?
Yeah, Die Hard too.
Excellent. Sergio Mims, ladies and gentlemen, co-founder of Black Harvest Film Festival. After today's show, we're going to have a sit-down. I've been promoting it all day. We're going to be doing gangster movies with Sergio and El Dragon. We're going to talk about The Irishman. But, all right.
Wait, hold the phone. Hold the phone. Frank has weighed in. What was the question you asked, Frank?
What was the question I asked for? I can't remember.
That's our host, guys. Didn't even remember the damn question.
What about Fred Thompson?
Oh, wait, no. Did Bill Clinton give a speech at the 2000 convention? And that's a key one because in 2000, Monroe's favorite candidate, Al Gore, was trying to distance himself. Remember?
Yeah.
Al Gore was trying to distance himself from Bill Clinton.
Right. Foolishly.
Thank you.
Foolishly.
Now, we'll get into that.
Right.
So did he give a speech?
Bill Clinton did give a speech at the 2000 Democratic National Convention.
All right.
Okay, so every year,
Right.
William Jefferson Clinton.
Because Clinton gives good speeches.
So should they allow Bill Clinton, Monroe, you're on the hot seat.
Yes.
Should they allow Bill Clinton a speaking role at the 2020 convention?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I say no.
I'm with Sergio on this
Yes.
one.
You don't have him. He's not in prime time, but you got to put him.
Oh, he's
there.
going to
As
demand
soon
prime
as
time.
they have him come on.
He's going to demand prime time.
Right,
You
no.
know it. He and
Now, of
Hillary.
course he is, but that doesn't mean you have to give it to him.
Yeah, but the thing, I agree with you, Ben. Cut the tie.
You got to cut
It's
the tie.
over
You
with.
got to cut the tie.
Move on.
All right, now, in 2000, I'll concede that.
There are people that love Bill. Clinton, Hillary, not so much, but there are people in the
Who
party,
still loves Bill?
a lot of women.
No more, man. That is so 1996.
No
Bill Clinton is a dirty dog when it comes to women. Bill Clinton is an
real nice.
embarrassment, and Bill Clinton.
Oh, I know that, but a lot of women like bad boys, and that's what he is.
Well, you know what? I have to say this. What percentage of the white women vote did Donald Trump
I was
get?
going to say, did you just
51%?
explain the Trump women vote?
Yeah.
Right.
No, as I explained before, once again, controversial. I think a lot of those women voted for Trump to keep peace in the house because their husbands.
There were women.
They were hardcore for Trump.
I saw
and
women.
They didn't
with,
want to get a black guy.
I saw.
to get thrown out of the house.
I saw.
Wait, time out. They
I
don't-
saw women with signs on them who were.
I didn't say all women. I said a
who
lot of
said,
women did.
He can grab me here. They had signs like
That's
that.
some
I saw.
twisted stuff.
Well,
Sergio.
they've been brainwashed by
That's some twisted
Patrick.
stuff.
Right. So it
Yeah,
wasn't
that is
their,
some twisted
and
stuff.
their husband wasn't telling them where that sign out.
Right.
I do believe, Monroe, that what part of what you're saying is rooted back in about 1998 when the Republicans turned on Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
And so many Democrats had a knee-jerk reaction to defend him. And I confess, I'm putting my right hand in the air. It's confessional music. I was one of those Democrats. And I know a lot of Democrats that I know felt the same way.
Yeah.
So in this way, in this respect, I can understand and relate
Yeah.
to the hardcore Trump voter who feels as though the Democrats are trying to kick out of office their guy. Now, in retrospect, wish perhaps it would have been better for the Democrats had Bill Clinton been impeached, because I think Al Gore would have won in 2000. What do you think about that theory? Would Al Gore have won in 2000?
No.
Yeah, Al Gore was just a bad candidate.
Yeah, Al Gore.
Guys, he won the election. I just want to remind you of that.
Look, he didn't even win his own state.
That is correct. You're right.
He didn't win his own state.
You're right. He lost
He didn't win his own state. If you don't win your own state, what good are you?
Of course, Trump didn't win his own state either.
Good point. Touche.
All right.
That's good.
On God.
You got to give Monroe credit for that one. All right, we got Monroe.
In fact, Trump didn't win it with his own building.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe he'll win Florida this time. All right, we got Monroe and Sergio in the studio. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Sergio's going to give his Pete Buttigieg theory. Stick around, folks. Did you know that 40% of the people in Illinois opt to be cremated? Well, it's true. And Chicagoland Cremation Options honors their wishes by providing cremation services directly to the general public. Chicagoland Cremation Options provides an affordable, ethical, and easy cremation arrangement, whether in person or online. Save thousands and streamline the process by going directly to Chicagoland Cremation Options. It's a family-owned business operated by my good friend, Douglas Klein. Here's how you reach them. ChicagolandCremationOptions.com. One more time, ChicagolandCremationOptions.com.
It's Chicagoland's adult entertainment playground. It's the world-famous Admiral Theater, 3940 West Lawrence Avenue. The Admiral is homegrown from Chicago, and it's the most conveniently located club in all of the city. 15 minutes from the O'Hare Airport in downtown Chicago Loop. Voted Chicago's best strip club, the Admiral has showgirls galore and a variety of adult entertainment shows. The world-famous Admiral Theater, open every day from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m., 3940 West Lawrence Avenue. For events, showtime, and other information, visit AdmiralX.com. Must be 18 years of age or older to enter.
The L, LSD, the tree, the bean. There are some words that you have to be a Chicagoan to understand. But don't worry, you can brush up on your Chicago lingo with the book that Ben Joravsky has in his hand right now. It's called The Chicagopedia, a brand new guide from the Sun-Times that hilariously defines the terms that any good Chicagoan should know. Ben's looking at it right now. Ben, tell us what you're seeing in this Chicagopedia.
Well, I see a lot of things in the Chicagopedia that I'm going to quiz are two. Well, one is a lifelong Chicagoan.
Okay.
Born and raised in Hyde Park. The other has lived in the city of Chicago since, I want to say, the mid-'70s. So even though he's
an immigrant.
He's a Garyite.
Only two, but Gary is a suburb of Chicago.
Let me see if there's any Michael Jackson references in here that would really make him feel home. He's from Gary, Indiana, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to quiz them.
Or Alex Karras.
Alex, very good.
So Ben has his Chicagopedia in hand, which you can too, guys. They make these for everybody.
So was Gene Rayburn, the host of the
Match Game.
He was from Gary.
And Steiglitz.
All right, well, it's not the Garypedia, guys. It's the Chicagopedia. We're trying to sell the Chicagopedia. Ben has it in his hand, and he's going to quiz these guys on Chicago lingo.
They should have expanded it.
Wait, do you have any more of the...
No, let it rip, buddy.
All right, guys, so
you
here
do
we
a
go.
question, and I'll finish the ad.
Right.
Okay, so here we go. I am just going to routinely... So again, Chicagopedia. Well, let's give a shout-out to Robert Herguth, who was the editor of the Chicagopedia.
All right,
And
Robert.
he's been on our show many times. This guy is utterly obsessed with FBI files, has been collecting the files that the FBI has been...
Him and Ben nerd out all the time on this show.
Really, it is kind of embarrassing. All right, but it won't be as...
This is Bob, right? Bob Herguth.
Yeah, his son. All right, here we go.
Okay.
Guys, I swear, I just opened this up, and this is what I found. I just literally opened this up.
Here's on Chicagopedia, which
It's
you can own as
Chicagopedia.
well.
However, there's a reference to just Northwest Indiana. There you go. It's a Northwest Indiana. And do you know how they define? How would you define, Sergio, in a sentence, Northwest Indiana?
I don't go there.
Okay, well, that's okay. All right.
The region.
All right.
That's how they refer to it in the southern part of the state.
Wait, the southern part of Indiana?
Yeah.
The region?
The region.
They do say that?
Yeah, the region.
Wow, I'm sure they're referring to something when they say
yes,
the region.
they
I think
are.
there's something about Northwest Indiana
Yes.
that distinguishes it from much of the rest of Indiana,
yes.
if you
Right.
follow my drift.
Yeah, I get it. It's a little bit too black.
Yes.
And brown.
So here is how the Chicago Sun-Times, in their sentence of Northwest Indiana, area that Southsiders drive through as quickly as they can. That's very Sergio right there. Area that Southsiders drive through as quickly as they can while heading to Grand Beach and Saugatuck for the weekend. Now, why would you distinguish anybody like a Southsider? First of all, it's probably more Northsiders than Southsiders who have vacation homes in Grand Beach and Saugatuck, and everybody is driving through it as fast as they can. Not just a Southsider. I would say area that Southsiders drive to get cheap cigarettes.
Or firecrackers.
Or firecrackers, right? Or porn.
Or guns.
Or guns.
gas.
Or gas.
All right, this live read's getting weird. Hand me that Chicagopedia, could you please? It's the Chicagopedia from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Where can I get that?
At Chicago Sun-Times. Wait, hold on. You can get it at suntimes.com/CT shop to order your copy of the Chicagopedia. All things Chicago and I guess a little bit of Indiana as well.
A little bit. I just opened it up and there was Indiana, which is very appropriate.
Go check it out. Suntimes.com/CT shop to order your copy of Chicagopedia.
Thank you, sir.
Today. Do it today. All right, hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky show for Wednesday, November 20th is moments away. What's up, Sergio?
I want to also thank Chicago Reader for naming Black Harvest Film Festival as the runner-up at the Chicago National Film Festival. But still, we came in second place. Next year, we'll be in first
Number
place.
1. Should have been number 1 this year, but that's just me.
Well, we didn't get anywhere on the
how
podcast.
How do you think I feel?
Yeah, we didn't even make top 3 in our podcast.
Damn.
Yeah, I know.
That's not good. What the hell?
But we were rated the number 1 podcast in America by the Alton Riverfront Association of Podcasters.
These are lies.
There you go. You got something.
That's a lie. All right, the Ben Joravsky Show, hour number 2 for Wednesday, November 20th is moments away. But before we get into that, we need to thank the following unions for jumping on board and sponsoring this program. Unions like the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 in District 8, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150, and of course, today's Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you by our dear friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Go get a Chicagopedia. Hour number 2, let's go. Yes, it is Wednesday, November 20th, and live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. In this hour of the program, we still got Monroe Anderson in studio, and we still got Sergio Mims in studio, director of the Black Harvest Film Festival, and we welcome... Ben, did you give this guest my phone number, the text? Okay, did not. So she may be outside. Children's book author, Robin Stevenson. And now your host, Chicago Reader columnist, Ben Joravsky.
All right, I'm going to keep the Chicagopedia book here because I'm going to quiz various people that come through the studio and see if they know the answers to the various Chicagopedia trivia.
You can have your very own Chicagopedia quiz night. Just go get it. ChicagoSunTimes.com.
And let's get one for Sergio. He deserves one. I got mine because I'm a home subscriber. Every day I get my beloved Bright One delivered to my door, and this was included in the Sunday package. And I saw it. I took it out, and I started reading it and talking to my wife. Hey, look at this, and et cetera, et cetera.
By the way, do you know who David Lammy is? I got to talk about this.
The Dalai Lama?
No, David Lammy. He's this black British member of Parliament, the Labour Party. And he represents Tottenham.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I found out later where Tottenham is, and he is one of the biggest voices against Brexit. He's a Harvard Law School grad, and he's been on TV in the United States, but I've been following this guy a lot. Right, he's really passionate and he's brilliant about talking about the disaster Brexit would be. And a couple weeks ago, he was giving a speech in Parliament, in House of Commons, and he was talking about how it would affect his community if Brexit happened in Tottenham, and particularly an increased crime. And he said, I don't want the south side of Chicago in Tottenham. And hey, brother, I beg your pardon. And I talked to some people later. I was in New York last week. I talked to a friend of mine who'd been in Tottenham. She said it's one of the worst places in the London area with poverty and crime. And he said, I don't want the south side of Chicago on Tottenham. You know,
that's no good. That's Trump-like. That's Trump-like, Monroe.
It's
that's
right
Trump-like.
out of Trump or Boris Johnson.
Yeah, Boris Johnson, who's the Trump of England.
And I sent him a very strongly worded email.
Did he respond?
No, I got a form letter from his office.
All right, well, that's a start. All right, before we get, I'm going to get to Sergio's theory about Pete Buttigieg, and I really want to hear Monroe's response. You got an update for me, D?
I got an Arroyo Gate update, but I'll do that a little later. I want to make sure our guest, she's
okay.
She may be here, she may not. So
okay.
I'm going to check in on our guest.
In the meantime, getting back to the hearings, the impeachment hearing, I forgot to mention that Sondland also said that John Bolton was in on the deal.
Yeah.
You know, they've been looking at him as the savior,
right.
what have you. And
well, if he was in on the deal and he comes out and says he was in on the deal, then that would be a guy in the room. That would be firsthand. So
yeah, but he was in on the deal.
Yeah.
I mean, not in the room.
Well, I got to tell you guys, before we go to Sergio's theory on Pete Buttigieg, which is sort of a warm-up for tonight's debate, I have to tell you that I have never been a fan of John Bolton.
No.
And the attempt by...
Or as I like to call him, Wally Wallace.
Well, yeah, because he does with the mustache.
Well, or as Trump said, he got a porn stash.
He's got a porn stash.
Well,
Donald Trump...
John Holmes had a better one.
But this notion, which is so bizarre, that some Republicans are spreading to defend Donald Trump, follow me, the logic they're employing, they're taking a little bit from the left. They're saying that Donald Trump was standing up to warmongers in the bureaucracy, the bowels of the deep state, who wanted to have regime change wars throughout the world. And it was Donald Trump defying them. That's what he was essentially doing. And they're turning against him. And Exhibit A would be John Bolton. I just want to remind everybody, yes, John Bolton absolutely was a warmonger, and John Bolton was behind many of George Bush's regime change wars. But it was Donald Trump who saw John Bolton on TV and said, I like his rhetoric. Right. I like how he stands up to Democrats. I like how he defends me, right, Monroe? Yeah, exactly. And I'm just going to pluck him from obscurity and bring him back into the White House. So this just shows you how they just twist things on a freaking dime.
I know John Bolton, who I call the guy who gets sexually aroused by the idea of World War III.
Well, you think it's sexual, man? That's a movie in itself. The twisted mind of John Bolton. Yeah, John Bolton. So the notion that somehow or other Donald Trump is standing up to the John Boltons of the world, when it was Donald Trump who brought...
Trump has no core, no morals, no nothing, except for his white supremacy. He is a white supremacist. His main advisor now, particularly on
Stephen Miller.
Is Stephen Miller.
Oh, my goodness.
I know.
We were going to talk about Stephen. That is a really sick, twisted case. Stephen Miller.
Funny,
and speaking of screwy defenses, the people who pointed out that Miller's a white supremacist are being charged with being anti-Semitic.
Yeah, because Stephen Miller's Semitic. Stephen Miller's Jewish.
Yes,
so somehow or other, one of the defense that Donald Trump uses, if you attack Stephen Miller, you're anti-Semitic. It's similar to the Ben Carson thing. If you attack Ben Carson for being an absolutely do-nothing Secretary of the Department of Housing,
well, he's doing what they put him in the office to do.
Then they say you're anti-black. If you criticize Kanye West, for the really weird, twisted stuff he said about Donald Trump and wearing their MAGA hat, then you're anti-black. Yeah. So it's just like they're taking that same argument and trying to use it
because it stifles debate. Debate.
It puts people on the defensive.
Right.
All right. Let's hear your Pete Buttigieg theory, and then I would.
Well, it's not a theory, but
your thoughts, and then get Monroe's comments.
I'm getting kind of sick and tired. Okay, Pete Buttigieg right now is doing really well.
Number one in the polls in Iowa.
In Iowa. He's insurging. And the thing I keep hearing for the last few weeks is he would be on top if it wasn't for black people being so homophobic. And I'm sick and tired of us being blamed for everything. Now, wait a minute. You mean that... Oh.
Yeah, here's our next guest. It's okay.
You are looking for this building, after all. I'm sick and tired of black people being blamed that it's your fault. Well, wait a minute. You mean we're the only people? Black people are the only people who are homophobic? See, white people don't have it anymore. Asian people, Hispanic people. Now we're being blamed because Pete Buttigieg is not surging on the top. There are other reasons why he's not getting black support. It is not because supposedly we're all homophobic. That is ridiculous.
No, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's that has been a recurring theme that I've been fighting for years. I think I've had this argument with Monroe down through the years. This notion that somehow or other black voters are more homophobic than white voters or any other voters is absolutely absurd. And I can constantly put this out here, this challenge, which nobody can deliver. All right? Name one black elected official in the history of the United States. And I'll let it be an alderman, a state rep, a state senator, anyone who lost an election because he or she supported gay rights. You can't do it because it doesn't exist. It's not a driving issue in the black community, and that's a fact.
It's not an issue, period. Nobody's voting
on it.
Exactly. We got enough problems without dealing with sex. And so they discuss poverty, discrimination. I mean, that's how you run in the black community. Well, you don't run on sexual rights or anything like that, because that's way down at the bottom.
Yeah. So and by the way,
and Pete's problem
is
that he doesn't have any support in South Bend, among the blacks in South Bend. And
Henry Davis.
Because of the way he dogged out the police chief, he didn't handle that right.
You started it.
Yeah, right.
You started it.
Henry Davis.
When you had him on your show.
3 times he's been on. Right. We love Henry Davis.
3 times now.
He's been on 3 times.
Right.
Yeah.
You started it. Yeah. Nobody said a thing until you had him on, and then it became...
Now he's on Fox. Henry Davis is...
Oh, he was on Fox?
Yeah, he's on Fox. They were like, oh, let's get... everybody's stealing from the Ben Joravsky show. Fox TV, hey, let's get Henry Davis.
Now, was he on Fox 32 or like Fox and Cable News
like
channel?
as in Fox, we hate Democrats. Fox.
Well, if they steal me, it's going to cost them.
Oh, my goodness. My head will blow up.
It's going to cost them. They have to give me $1 million. I'm
going to tell you right now, okay?
Yes.
There is no way Monroe Anderson will ever be featured on national Fox. Right. They won't have you on.
I know.
You are been too consistently critical of Donald Trump.
Right.
They will never have you on. Right. They'll never give you that.
And not only critically... Not only critical, but brilliantly critical.
Well, okay, that goes without saying, right?
I cut to the chase.
They offer him a lot of money. His excuse will be, well, they need an alternative voice.
No, their alternative voices are not like...
Right.
They don't give real alternative voices.
Exactly, they won't pretend.
They got these wimpy liberals that come on and get pounded, never fight back.
Right, exactly.
But getting back to Buttigieg, he has... What happened this summer that I talked about in August?
Well, I can't remember. I can't remember what happened yesterday.
No, you remember when he gave the big talk at the Higher Washington?
Oh my God, yeah, that was hilarious.
Center
yeah, you were on the Green Line,
and the Green Line,
yeah,
and it was all white people, right? In this meeting, it was kind of fundraiser, but speaking about his Douglas plan,
yeah, Frederick Douglass,
and then he's talking about. Gee, isn't it a shame that black people weren't here? You didn't tell anybody. Even Delmarie Cobb said she lives a block away. She didn't know about it. I live 10 minutes away. I didn't know about it.
Sergio, here's the deal. Any Democrat who is the nominee is anticipating overwhelming black vote. So a guy like, if you're running Pete Buttigieg's campaign, their strategy is probably we're going to win this nomination without black votes, and then we're just going to turn on a
You
pivot.
can't win without black votes.
I agree.
You're going to say that?
No,
That's
they
what
would
they
never
think?
say that, but I think that's the underlying premise. I mean,
No,
they've
they're
made
trying,
nothing.
Yeah, no, they're
How
trying now. They're scouting out South Carolina.
He's at 1% in
Who's
South
gonna-
Carolina.
I know.
Buttigieg is at 1%.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're scouting out, trying to figure out what to do about it.
You know what he
Because
should
they
have
know. Yeah, they know they can't get it without the black vote.
Oh, you cannot win the Democratic nomination without the black vote.
But they now have Iowa nailed down pretty much.
Because there's no black voters there
Right, no.
to
And
speak
so
of.
now they're
What's the
trying to
Iowa?
figure out, and I've heard him address black issues,
Yeah.
and he's very savvy in the discussion, but he's never done anything about it in reality. But he knows how to say the right things. He has that down.
When is the Iowa?
February 3rd.
Okay.
Oh,
The
Iowa.
caucus or the primary?
Well, there is just a caucus in Iowa. It's just a caucus. There is no
Okay,
Iowa
the
primary.
caucus, okay,
Yeah, and
okay.
Iowa, they moved it back. In the past, it's been the first week of January, and now it'll be February. I can't believe I know this stuff. February 3rd, and then they go on to New Hampshire, and then
Okay.
after that,
And by the way,
Then South
why
Carolina,
is it
Vegas,
that they're always saying
Vegas.
that he's the only one who's not getting black support? Neither is Klobuchar, neither is Castro, neither is Booker, neither is Harris. Harris is dead.
hold on.
Do you sip of that water?
I'm drinking that Kamala Kool-Aid, and it's
Kamala
delicious,
Kool-Aid.
Sergio. By the
She's
way,
through. She's finished.
By the way, we have Robin Stevenson in the studio. We're going to bring her on real soon. We've been promising her. For a second, I was panicking and thought she might have gotten lost in traffic, but she fought the traffic. So we're going to bring her on. But when we're just done with this discussion about politics with Sergio and Monroe Anderson, and I'd say that the difference between Buttigieg and the other candidates when it comes to the black vote is this. I'm going to throw this out and get your reaction. And I'm thinking this up as I say it. But it's not just that he has no black support. It's that there's opposition from black people. I think you would find it difficult to find for Buttigieg. I think it would be difficult to find like 20 black people in America that had a strong opinion one way or another about Amy Klobuchar.
Right.
Or Michael Bennett, or any of the other centrists who are running. But Mayor Pete was the mayor of South Bend, Indiana. I believe it's approximately, don't quote me on this, Sergio, 20% black.
Yeah.
And he has been in the
I think
mix.
It's larger than that, maybe 30.
30%? Okay, he has been in the middle of some very contentious relationships with high-profile black people in South Bend, has not bent on any of those, has not shown until he was running, very similar to Michael Bloomberg. As soon as he was running, I was going to ask you about stop and frisk. As soon as he's running for president, all of a sudden he's worried about race relations.
Right.
And I think that's the difference between...
That's mighty white of them.
Well,
That's
you know what?
Monroe
You
Anderson,
know what
not
to say
me.
about it? I make the same argument about Kamala Harris. She got huge black opposition because of her record as a prosecutor, attorney general in California. It is abysmal. She's calling herself a progressive. When you read her record, it's far from progressive. And she got a lot of black opposition from that. I don't care if you went to Howard. I don't care if every time you show up now you got some black marching band from a HBCU. That's not fooling anybody. We see you. Okay?
Sergio's been really consistent on this point,
I'm
Monroe,
dead
for a long
consistent
time.
on
He's been
that.
so hard on Kamala Harris. I've always been trying to defend Kamala Harris, and she did graduate from Howard, and they have this big reunion at Howard. I think it's every October or something like that. That's homecoming.
And she's also
yeah, she's always there.
A Delta, I think.
You sorority.
She's in the links.
She's also a sorority, a black sorority.
All right.
Which is hooked to the boule, and don't get me started on the boule.
All right, let's not get you started on that. We should move on, take a break, bring on Robin Stevenson to talk about kid activists and the attempt to censor her. I put that in quotes because it didn't really work out. But this is one of my favorite themes, Sergio. You would really dig this too.
Oh, absolutely.
When this is one of my favorite themes. I'm going to put this out so Robin Stevens can hear my favorite theme, and maybe she'll disagree with me. But when it comes to like First Amendment issues, free expression issues in this country, Sergio and Monroe, when the right complain, it's like, oh, Well, that's their heartfelt religious convictions. You can't tell them what not to believe in, and you have to censor someone like Robin Stevenson. But when the left complains that the right is being nasty, rude, condescending, racist, homophobic, etc., oh, you're a snowflake. Man it up. Let us insult you. And that, my friend, is the great inconsistency on this debate.
You're being PC.
That's what they say, man.
I say that there is this increasing, and I've talked this with other people, this increasing tendency I've been seeing in like Facebook or Twitter to silence black thought. And I don't like it. And I have friends who, I've been blocked 3 times. Last time because I was blocked for a week on Twitter because I said some things about Candace Owens.
Yes, I remember you got blocked.
Look, but I have one friend of mine who had a history website, and she gets blocked all the time.
Yeah.
So, I see this increasingly.
All right, we're going to get it. The next time you're on, we're going to get into that. And let me just remind everybody that Sergio will be returning at 4 o'clock today. We're going to do a taping of a movie discussion on gangster flicks and The Irishman.
Sergio, before you go, could you please just let everyone hear that awesome British accent that you have again?
What do you say, Mike? Here?
I'll tell you what, man. Sergio Mims, ladies and gentlemen. Monroe Anderson. They'll be doing a show at Zany's later tonight.
You don't say. We're doing a show at Zany's?
We got Robin Stevenson on deck. We're going to bring her on when we return.
The Ben Joravsky Show is supported by Northwestern University's part-time master's program in literature and liberal studies. Students learn from dynamic and diverse faculty as they build advanced skills for critical analysis, writing, and research. Evening classes are held on Northwestern's Evanston and Chicago campuses. The spring quarter application deadline is January 15th. Learn more at sps.northwestern.edu/masters.
And for the record, I love puppies.
Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan.
I'm not running, but I'm going to keep working and speaking and standing up for what I believe. I want to be sure that people understand I'm going to keep speaking out. I'm not going anywhere. What's at stake in our country, the kinds of things that are happening right now are deeply troubling to me. We've gotten not just polarized, we've gotten into really opposing camps, unlike anything I've ever seen in my adult life.
Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show. Live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Robin Stevenson. That was Hillary Clinton, correct?
Yes.
And
correct.
Is that a new quote?
No, that was old.
That's an old
one?
one?
I just play random quotes during the break.
Because she said, I'm not running, but then lately she's been talking about perhaps she would run. Dennis is really excited about it. He has a Run, Hillary, Run t-shirt.
Those
and
are lies. Those are lies. But hey, everybody, we're having a big conversation going on the live stream chat room today. You people are awesome. Stephen, Jay, Brianna, all of you. Hey, remember, ask us a question at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show, at gmail.com. Benny J Show at gmail.com. We're going to do a special where we're answering everybody's questions. So feel free. Remind you once again, I'll put it here on the chat room again, Benny J Show at gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. That was false about Hillary Clinton, what Ben said.
Oh, sorry, D. He just kind of love her a little bit. Anyway, Robin Stevenson, thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate it. All right. And Robin Stevenson was the subject. I should just tell people if they maybe missed the article. There was an article, I want to say, in the Chicago Tribune about a week or so ago, and I can't remember who wrote the story. I'm really embarrassed. Oh, Heidi Stevens wrote the story. Very good story about how the good folks in Wheaton, at a public school in Wheaton, in their infinite wisdom, thought it was a good idea to disinvite her for making an appearance to talk about her book, Kid Activist. And we'll get into all the issues embedded there. I've already sort of, Robin teased my worldview on this, and I urged you at the break to vigorously disagree with me if you have a different point of view. But just sort of introduce yourself to our listeners a little bit. You're an author, children's books. Talk a little bit about yourself and your career.
Sure, yeah. I'm an author from the west coast of Canada. I've written 25 books for kids and teens that range from board books for babies up through picture books, early chapter books, middle grade fiction, teen novels, and also nonfiction for middle grade kids and teens. And Kid Activists was just released in September, and it's the newest book in a series called Kid Legends. And the series are all about famous people's lives when they were children. So earlier books in the series were about scientists, athletes, artists, and so on. And this one is about activists. So it's a collection of short biographies of 16 different activists focusing on their childhood experiences.
I detect just a bit like a British accent there. You say you're from Canada?
Yeah.
I'm picking up a little.
I was actually born in England. I moved to Canada when I was 8 years old, and that doesn't happen very often anymore that people pick that up.
Well, we apologize for our previous guest's British accent. Sorry for
Was that insulting to you?
No, I thought he was pretty good. Actually, I was impressed.
He started that off. He went on a riff about Brexit, and then he just picked up the British accent, and he called. So anyway, all right. So you, this book is Kid Activists. And talk about some of the activists that you profile in this book.
Yeah. So the activists in the book are a pretty diverse group of people and represent a wide range of social justice movements. So it includes people like Frederick Douglass, Susan B. Anthony, Harvey Milk, Rosa Parks, James Baldwin, Nelson Mandela, Janet Mock, Helen Keller, Ruby Bridges. It ends with a chapter about Autumn Peltier, who's an Indigenous teen who's been fighting to protect the water. She was just speaking at the UN when Greta Thunberg was speaking, but didn't get as much publicity as Greta, but is an amazing young woman who's been an activist since she was about 8 years old. I think she's 15 now. So it's a pretty diverse group of people throughout history, some people who are sort of contemporary. Like I said, focusing on what their childhood experiences were. So looking at what were some of the influences in their childhood that might have led them to become activists.
I see. And so how did you determine which activists you would profile?
Yeah, that was actually probably the hardest part at the beginning, because we probably came up with about 50 names and then had to choose 16 to keep the book to an appropriate length. So that was part of the challenge. For some people that I would have been interested in writing about, it was hard to get enough information about their childhood to be able to actually write an engaging chapter. So that was one of the things, is enough information available about this person's childhood. But then within that, I wanted to be able to talk about civil rights, about worker rights, employment rights, environment, disability, gay rights, transgender rights. I wanted it to be a pretty broad spectrum of types of activism.
And when was the book published?
It came out September 23.
September of this year. Yeah. And so you were invited to come speak and read a portion of the book at a school in Wheaton. Do I have this correct?
Yeah, my publisher organized a tour. So I was in California for a week and then in the Chicago area for a week. And in each community, a local independent bookstore would work with the school to arrange a visit. So the Wheaton visit would have been the first visit on the Chicago leg of the tour.
Had you ever heard of Wheaton? Be candid and honest. You never heard of Wheaton. Okay, it's all good. It's all good. So you have this invitation to come to Wheaton to speak about kid activists. Now, you were going to go to a school. Am I correct about that?
Yeah, an elementary school. That's right.
Elementary school in Wheaton. And what do you do when you visit schools? Do you read portions of the book, or what do you do?
I actually use PowerPoint because the book's illustrated. It has sort of cartoon-style illustrations, so I use PowerPoint to show some of the images from the book. And with the talk that I was planning to do, because the book I can't talk about all of the people in the book, I was actually focusing on Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, James Baldwin, Dolores Huerta, and Autumn Peltier. And I was looking at some of the themes in the book. So for those 5 people, how they saw or experienced injustice as children, who some of the role models in their lives were that influenced them, how they sort of had a vision for how the future could look different, and how they found people to work with in order to bring about change. So that was sort of the focus of my presentation.
Now, how old were the kids in Wheaton that you were going to be addressing?
Grade 3, 4, and 5.
3, 4, 5. So do you make an attempt to make these historical figures relevant to a fifth grader growing up in suburban Chicago in 2019?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I usually start by asking the kids, okay, do you guys know who Rosa Parks is, and what did she do, and what's she famous for? And usually there's at least a number of kids who do, and so I'll ask them to share what they know, and we'll talk about that. And then I'll ask if they know what she was like when she was a little kid. And generally they don't, because we don't tend to learn that. And so I'll talk about the fact that she loved reading, that she loved fairy tales, that she didn't like sports, that she said if she tried to play sports, she always fell down and got hurt. So she
Is that
wasn't.
real? I
Yeah,
did not
yeah, she
know
wasn't.
that.
I didn't either. She liked going fishing with her grandparents, and she would like
Kinda
to put
sporty.
she would put the worm on the hook for her grandparents, and she figured that fish would like a lively worm best, so she would try and find a lively worm to put on the hook. And so just stories like that that are that kids can relate to, because I think that if they can see that these people who made these big changes were once just kids like them, then maybe it makes them feel that their voices matter and that there's things that they can do.
So, all right, and so you're all set to give a talk that's a sort of a conventional talk. I just on the surface can't see anything wrong with it, showing the relevancy of very important historical figures to kids today. You're all set to give the talk. Then what happened?
I got an email from my publisher asking if Harvey Milk was one of the activists I was going to talk about. You can see he's on the cover. He's one of the 8 activists on the cover of the book.
Thank you.
And then I wrote back with the list of the activists that were included in my presentation. And then I got an email later that night from my publisher saying that the school had decided to cancel the visit.
Wow. And did you do a deep dive or ask the follow-up, like, why?
Yeah, my publisher said it was because a parent had raised concerns about the inclusion of Harvey Milk in the book.
One parent.
As far as I know.
Parents got we call it in Chicago a lot of juice, a lot of clout. Got a lot of clout. One parent makes a complaint about Harvey Milk. And I'll just read you the opening of the Harvey Milk chapter. So, because maybe there's some people out here in our listener audience who never saw the movie or don't know who Harvey Milk is. Harvey Milk was a gay rights activist and one of the first openly gay politicians to be elected to office in the United States. He won a seat on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors in 1977, but was assassinated only a year later. I remember that when that's how old I am, Robin. I remember when he was assassinated. For 10 trivia points, Robin. There were 2 people assassinated with
Pressure's on.
Pressure's on.
Welcome to the show.
Who else was assassinated by the same deranged former alderman?
Yes.
From
Dan White assassinated both Harvey Milk and Mayor George Moscone.
Excellent. And who replaced Mayor Jordan Moscone?
Oh, my goodness. That I can't answer.
But Elizabeth Austin can answer that question. Negatory. It would have been Dianne Feinstein who, at the time.
Actually, I did know that.
I didn't even read the book. Okay, this is the stuff that I have up there, ladies and gentlemen. Man, they're never going to let me in Wheaton because I know stuff like, Ben, you know who replaced George Moscone? Yeah, it was Dianne Feinstein was, don't quote me, but I think she was like the vice chair, maybe. She was this board of supervisor, and when crazy Dan White came in and he shot both Harvey Milk and George Moscone. Oh God, this is flashback, Robin. I actually really remember this. And then Dianne Feinstein sort of launched her electric. It was a horrible crime. Anyway, he grew up in an era when gay people had no rights at all, and his fight for equality made him a hero to many in the LGBTQ community. That's the opening lead, and then it goes from there to tell the backstory. What was the objection? Did they ever get more specific with you in terms of what was it about Harvey Milk in particular that caused such consternation?
I actually don't know, and can't really comment on that. I know that they have since said that they were also concerned about the inclusion of gender identity. Janet Mock is one of the activists in the book, and that was also raised as a concern, but I can't really comment beyond that.
So you don't. All you know is that there's a specific objection to Harvey Milk. Was there? So then what happened? Was that's the end of the story, or is there a happy ending to this?
Well, the happy ending is this is 7 weeks later, and I've been invited back down to Illinois by Representative Tara Costa-Howard and Equality Illinois. Discovery DuPage and Westin Hotels have sponsored that trip. So I'm back in town. I'm going to be speaking tonight at Glenbard West High School at 7 p.m. And doing a book signing at 5 p.m. at the bookstore of Glen Ellen. So I'm really happy to be back in the area and speaking about the book after all.
So in other words, there were some people in the larger Wheaton community who felt as though this was inappropriate to ban your book.
Yeah.
And so they wanted to show that Wheatonians, I just made that word up, I don't even know if it's a real one, Wheatonians do not all agree with some anonymous caller.
Yeah. A few weeks after the talk was canceled, I got an email from a student in the district who is part of the LGBTQ community, who had heard about what had happened and was very upset. Mm-hmm. So I decided to write an open letter to the school district, but also publish it on my website, outlining why I thought it was problematic that they had made this decision. And as a result of that open letter, I got a lot of letters of support from Wheaton, from parents, from teachers, from students, from graduates who very much want to see schools be inclusive and be celebrating diversity and be talking about human rights and social justice and so on. So I think there's obviously a lot of support in the area.
Now I'm going to play devil's advocate with you. I see I didn't detect, I'm looking at these names, I don't see, there's no conservative or right-wing activists chronicled in this book. Do you feel that you've unfairly ignored them?
Like who?
I'm trying to think of an activist from the right. Stephen Miller. There's a name that's been on our...
Yeah.
Stephen Miller, he's a hero. Stephen Miller, for our listeners out there, is he's a young guy. He's in his 30s, I want to say. A Jewish fella from Southern California, and he grew up in a basically liberal environment, and somehow or other he came to the conclusion that white supremacy was an ideology he was going to follow. Hey, it's America. You're free to come up with anything you want. So he decided that it would be a good idea to launch a political career dedicated to promoting white supremacy.
Right.
And he has gone to the top. He's now one of the most influential thinkers, if I could use such a term, in the Donald Trump White House. So had you ever given any consideration to profiling Stephen Miller?
No, I would not be wanting to give his views a platform. People in the book are all people who fought for human rights, who fought for equality, who fought for social justice, who fought to make the world better.
As opposed to fighting against human rights and trying to make the world worse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, so ends my devil. I'm trying my best to be the devil's advocate here. But no, you have Alexander Hamilton here. Now, why did you choose Alexander Hamilton?
Actually, that's kind of interesting. I'm Canadian, and so I actually didn't know a whole lot about Alexander Hamilton. And that was one of the names suggested by my publisher. Because these books are used in the classroom a lot, and I think that there's some interest in, what are some of the historical figures that kids are studying in school, Alexander Hamilton being one of those. And it was an interesting one for me because I actually knew very little about Alexander Hamilton, so it was quite interesting reading about his childhood and his life and so on. He would have been one of the people in the book that I knew less about, for sure.
And Nelson Mandela, of course, is here. And why did you choose Nelson Mandela?
Yeah, so most of the people in the book are North American. There's just a few that are not. And Nelson Mandela I chose because I wanted to be able to talk about I think there's been a number of sort of independence movements in different countries around the world, and obviously we couldn't include all of them, but fighting against apartheid, I think was, such a huge contribution. And he's somebody that suffered so much and spent, decades in jail because of his beliefs, because of his activism, and yet made such a huge contribution. And I don't know that kids are aware of his story. He's not necessarily someone that kids are going to, going to have studied. So.
And one of you mentioned James Baldwin. It's one of my heroes.
Mine too.
Back when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Why'd you include him?
He was one of, as a sort of first year university student, I fell in love with his writing. So he was somebody that also was one of my heroes from way back. and I think just a really important voice in terms of the civil rights movement, and just an incredible human being. So I was really excited to learn more about him and about his childhood.
He's also gay, and now he didn't make a big issue of that in his writing, and he was not known as a quote-unquote gay activist. So it's interesting that this unnamed parent objected to Harvey Milk, who is an out of the closet gay activist promoting gay political rights in San Francisco, but made no mention of James Baldwin, raises the possibility that he or she, whoever it is, did not even know that James Baldwin was gay.
Right, absolutely. I mean, I think that Harvey Milk is on the cover and is holding a little rainbow flag.
Oh, that's a telltale sign.
Yeah. But Janet Mock is in the book who's a transgender woman. James Baldwin, who's gay or maybe bisexual, is included in the book. That wasn't is perhaps, if you're not familiar with these people, you might not have been aware of that about those two people.
All right. Well, let's get to my thesis. And my thesis. By the way, just before I get to my thesis, I have to tell you there was something very similar to this that happened in Chicago. And I don't know if you're aware of this. You're from Canada, and I don't know if this news made it. There is a great young adult. It's what I call a comic book, but there's a different term that they call it today.
Graphic novel?
Thank you. Elizabeth Austin knows everything. Graphic novel, and a graphic novel called Persepolis.
Oh, yes, I know it well. Yes,
okay.
It's a memoir, graphic memoir about Iran, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's a fantastic book. I recommend it to absolutely everyone. About 5 years ago, I'm not making this up, Robin, in the city of Chicago, a parent complained about one image in the book, in the graphic novel, which showed a prisoner being tortured by being urinated on. There was one image in a book about the political oppression in Iran, and it was ordered, somehow or other. That one phone call triggered a response in the Chicago public school system, then led by a mayor named Rahm Emanuel, you probably never heard of before. Anyway, that triggered a response where the librarians were ordered to remove the book from their library. Can you believe this? In the 21st century in the city of Chicago, the word got out. The kids started protesting. They took to the streets. Teachers stood up to a very courageous moment. And finally, the city of Chicago backed off on it. Well, you know how they do it when they get caught doing something they shouldn't do. They come up with some excuse. Well, that really wasn't how it. Anyway, they backed off on it. So it's not. I just want to say to the good people of Wheaton, I'm not picking on you. I was blasting the city of Chicago when they did this about 5 years ago. So in some ways, people in Chicago are no better than Wheaton, but it's the same impulse. And this is what, if somebody complains that their religious convictions or beliefs are insulted or violated by, let's say, a reference to a story about Harvey Milk and what a great social justice activist he was, then somehow we have to take that seriously and censor the book. But if a lefty says, I'm insulted because what? Fill in the blanks. You're allowing some right-wing activists to denounce me, say nasty things about me, then they're being a snowflake. I feel this is a little difficult to deal with. This is such a double standard. Do you agree with me?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think there's a lot of hypocrisy, and in terms of children's books, I think a number of the most challenged books are books with LGBTQ content, which I think are books that are really important that those books be in the schools, that kids need those books and teens need those books, and that parents certainly are free to say what they want to their own children and teach their children what they want, but I don't think they should be able to prevent other kids in the school from accessing books that they need and books that are important to them. So I think that, yes, it's often the people who are talking very loudly about freedom of speech who are also objecting to LGBTQ inclusion.
Mm-hmm. And talking about snowflakes, when somebody else is insulted, but when they're insulted, it's, oh, well, come on, this is my religious beliefs. You're really going to my hardcore. Mm-hmm. All right, Robin Stevenson is her name. Stevenson, Kid Activist is the name of the book. give out any information, Robin, you want to give about where you're going to be speaking or any website, any information folks want to get a copy of Kid Activists, True Tales of Childhood from Champions of Change.
Sure, yeah. My website is robinstevenson.com. I'll be speaking tonight at the Glenbard West High School in Glen Ellen at 7 p.m. You can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
All right, very good, Robin Stevenson. I want to give a shout out to the Chicago Tribune. They're the ones who sort of sounded the alarm on this, and I give the Chicago Tribune, you should know this, Robin, so much grief about their dumb editorials, okay? But kudos to Heidi. That was a great story. Got the word out. And give her a raise, Chicago Tribune.
It was an awesome story. I loved what she wrote, and she's done a follow-up story, I think just yesterday as well, and ended with a quote from a parent, which I thought just summed this up really well, about that, as parents, and I'm a parent, I have a 15-year-old, that our job is not to sort of control what they hear or prepare them for every possible conversation, but to have a relationship with them so that they feel comfortable to ask questions and to talk to us, and to have that kind of trusting relationship, and then to not try to prevent them from accessing information.
Absolutely. By the way,
she said it better than me, but yeah.
I'm gonna just put this out there as an old guy who's raised kids. If you think you can control what your kid is gonna watch, read, oh my goodness, man, you are so fooled. Don't kid yourself. Don't fool yourself. Robin Stevenson, thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate it. Kid Activist, True Tales of Childhood from Champions of Change. Cool book. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you so much.
Also want to thank Sergio Mims and Monroe Anderson, and of course, the man, the myth, the legend, the pride and joy of Alton. Back home in Alton, Robin, they call him White Lightning. Give yourself a raise. Take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everybody.
And remember, you can download previous Ben Joravsky shows and Benny J bonus interviews at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites, and wherever else you download podcasts. Downloaders, we live stream this program. It's true. Check it out sometime at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites and the Chicago Sun-Times YouTube channel. Follow us on social media at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J, Show on both Facebook and Twitter, The Ben Joravsky Show on Instagram. And hey, like I said, all next week, we're not doing a live show, but we're going to have Benny J bonus interviews and Benny J bonus shows to play for all of you. And one that we're doing is a Q&A. So feel free to ask us whatever question you have or it's bennyjshow@gmail.com, bennyjshow@gmail.com. We will see everybody on Thursday.